Emerging is a reader for freshman composition. It has long and accessible readings by public intellectuals like Thomas Friedman and Michael Pollan, but also from people working within a discipline but speaking to people outside the discipline, like Kenji Yoshino, who's a legal scholar. The table of contents is organized alphabetically, and that's to allow people to really see the surprising and multiple connections between the readings and not have each one sort of limited by certain thematics. But at the same time, we provide 10 sequences to sort of highlight some of the connections that are going to suddenly emerge between the readings. Well, students are facing a very complex and increasingly interconnected world. And part of the challenge for students as they move outside of our classrooms into their disciplines and then into their careers is how to think critically, read critically, and communicate both those sort of disciplinary concerns and to work with people sort of across disciplines in order to solve common problems. So one of the goals of the book is to enable those students to sort of do that critical reading and critical thinking in order to come together and work together to solve common problems. And that's part of where the title comes from. Part of it is that these are problems that are emerging in the world. Things like terrorism, globalization, the ethics surrounding things like biotechnology. And these are the questions that students, as adults, are going to have to address as actors in the public sphere. The other part of where the title comes from is that the students themselves are emerging as thinkers and writers. We're focusing primarily on 6 skills: reading critically, thinking critically, making an argument, supporting an argument, revising, and synthesizing. The readings are dealing with several very contemporary issues: information literacy, the role of media in a democracy, the global HIV crisis. But there are also some very classic themes: art and aesthetics, race, class, gender. And in each one, they're very interdisciplinary. So you'll have, for example, an economist thinking about global politics. Or you have Madeleine Albright working from diplomacy, but thinking about the role of faith and religion in diplomacy. And that was the sort of a very long process of finding stuff that I thought would be interesting and useful in the classroom. The end result of that is that all of these readings have been class tested at my school over the past couple of years. So about 4,000 students have vetted the set of readings that are in the collection. For me, the most exciting part of the apparatus is something called Language Matters. And what it does is it takes a new approach to issues of grammar. And instead of looking at grammar as a function of mechanics, it looks at it as a tool for analysis. And so, for example, students might be asked to take a key quotation from the reading and change it into passive voice and consider how that changes the impact and then how they can apply that to their own writing. And so it's not simply about being correct, it's using language and grammar as a tool for understanding readings. And that, for me, is very exciting. I want students to be able to have superb critical thinking skills, and that has to do with the ability to evaluate information, produce information, and manage information. And I want them to be able to express that through their writing.